Syria, meanwhile, is in the midst of almost a decade into the civil war. But what's happening in the country now is perhaps its biggest ever humanitarian crisis. The troops of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad are trying to take over the last rebel-held province. Idlib has become a flashpoint, and it looks like Turkey is trying to make the most of it in its quest to become a global leader. Take a look.
Syria is using every tool at its disposal to retake Idlib. It is backed by Russian air power. The fighting between the rebels and Assad's forces have forced thousands to leave their homes. The result, at least 900,000 people have been displaced. Towns and cities have been abandoned. Camps are overcrowded, and there is a shortage of basic necessities. But one of the biggest outcomes of Syria's Operation Idlib is the intervention of Turkey. Ankara has been involved in the Syrian war since its early days. In the last 9 years, its role has been both diplomatic and military. Back in 2011, Turkey started off by condemning the Syrian government for the very outbreak of the civil unrest. It went on to slam Assad for cracking down on the protesters. In 2016, the Turkish armed forces entered Syria. They targeted the People's Protection Units and the ISIS terrorists. In 2018, Turkey signed the Sochi Accord with Russia. It agreed to the setting up of a de-escalation zone. Turkey has troops at 12 observation posts in Idlib. Back home, it hosts 3.6 million Syrian refugees. But Turkey's role in the Syrian war could change soon.
Her operasyonda olduğu gibi bu konuda da.
The Idlib offensive is only a matter of time. We will not leave Idlib to the Syrian regime, which does not understand our country's determination, and to those encouraging it.
Bir an meselesidir.
Ankara is threatening to launch an operation in Idlib. Turkey wants to take on Assad's advancing forces. Turkish President Erdogan told his parliament that an operation in Idlib is imminent. Turkey says it wants to make Idlib a secure zone. Erdogan is eyeing a bigger role in the region and the world as a whole. His moves come after the United Nations warned of a humanitarian catastrophe in Syria. There's another incident that Turkey is likely to use to justify an operation in Idlib. Assad's forces fired shells at an observation post that was manned by Turkish troops. This happened on Monday. Turkey said it lost at least a dozen of its soldiers. The question is whether Turkey will really take on the advancing Syrian forces in Idlib. And what about Russia? Will Erdogan's quest for power force him to take on Putin? That is highly unlikely. Russia and Turkey have way too many joint interests. There's energy. Russia has built nuclear reactors for Turkey. Recently, Turkey also purchased the Russian S-400 missile system. A confrontation between the two countries wouldn't be the best idea.
If it's about operation against legitimate Syrian authorities and Syrian army, it would be the worst case scenario.
At the end of the day, while countries try to play the war to their benefit, it's the people who have everything to lose. In Idlib alone, over 900,000 people have been forced from their homes and shelters in less than 3 months. In the last 2 months alone, more than 200 civilians have died. The Syrian and Russian forces were responsible for 93% of these deaths. Turkey may be trying to play a messiah here. But one must not forget, Erdogan's men too have blood on their hands. The Turkish troops killed around 500 Syrians who were fleeing the civil war. 78 of them were children. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.